Renewed restrictions, familiar fears, a second wave of Trump's immigration policies. The year is 2025. Donald Trump, having reclaimed the presidency, has reinstated and intensified his immigration policies. The familiar specter of strict immigration control once again looms large over the United States, casting a long shadow over various sectors, including the restaurant industry. These policies, characterized by increased border security, stricter visa regulations, and a heightened focus on deportations, have sent ripples of anxiety throughout the nation. Trump's stance on immigration remains rooted in his America First rhetoric, prioritizing American workers and businesses. He argues that these policies are essential to protect American jobs and national security. However, critics argue that these policies are not only detrimental to the economy, but also create a climate of fear and uncertainty, particularly among immigrant communities. The restaurant industry, heavily reliant on immigrant labor, finds itself caught in the crosshairs of these policies. With a significant portion of its workforce comprising immigrants, many of whom are undocumented, the industry faces unprecedented challenges. The fear of deportation has become a stark reality for many, casting a shadow over their livelihoods and families. This resurgence of stringent immigration measures has reignited a debate about its impact on the American economy and social fabric. While proponents argue for its protective measures, opponents point to the potential damage to industries like restaurants, which thrive on the contributions of immigrant workers. Empty kitchens, empty tables, the labor crisis grips restaurants. The most immediate and palpable impact of Trump's immigration policies on the restaurant industry is the deepening labor shortage. Restaurants across the country, from bustling city diners to quaint countryside cafes, are grappling with a scarcity of workers, particularly in back-of-house positions like line cooks and dishwashers. This shortage stems directly from the fear of deportation that has gripped many undocumented restaurant workers. The increased visibility of immigration enforcement and the threat of workplace raids have driven many into the shadows, forcing them to choose between their livelihoods and their safety. The consequences of this labor shortage are far-reaching. Restaurants are forced to reduce operating hours, limit menu options, or even close their doors altogether due to their inability to find and retain staff. The once vibrant dining scene in many cities is now punctuated by help wanted signs that remain unanswered. This shortage is not merely a matter of inconvenience, it represents a fundamental threat to the restaurant industry's viability. As restaurants struggle to operate with depleted staffs, their ability to provide quality service and maintain their businesses is severely compromised. The price of fear: soaring costs and shrinking profits. The labor shortage induced by Trump's immigration policies has triggered a ripple effect throughout the restaurant industry, impacting not only staffing, but also its financial health. Restaurants are now confronted with the difficult choice of either raising wages to attract and retain legal workers, or operating with a reduced workforce, both of which carry significant financial implications. The need to offer higher wages to entice workers in a competitive market has led to increased operational costs for restaurants. These costs are often passed on to consumers in the form of higher menu prices, potentially alienating price-sensitive diners and impacting demand. Furthermore, the fear and uncertainty surrounding immigration policies have resulted in a decline in consumer spending, particularly among immigrant communities. This decrease in patronage further exacerbates the financial strain on restaurants already grappling with rising costs and labor shortages. The combined effect of these factors is a shrinking profit margin for restaurants. Many are struggling to stay afloat, facing difficult decisions about whether to absorb the rising costs, pass them on to consumers, or reduce their operations. This financial precarity threatens the livelihoods of restaurant owners and employees alike, casting a shadow over the future of the industry. A cloud of uncertainty anxiety looms over restaurants. Beyond the immediate economic ramifications, Trump's immigration policies have created a pervasive atmosphere of fear and uncertainty within the restaurant industry. This anxiety affects both restaurant owners and workers, albeit in different ways, contributing to a sense of unease and instability. Restaurant owners, particularly those who have built their businesses with the help of immigrant labor, find themselves in a precarious position. They face the daunting task of navigating a complex and ever-changing web of immigration regulations while trying to maintain their operations and support their employees. The fear of legal repercussions for unknowingly employing undocumented workers adds another layer of complexity to their already challenging situation. For undocumented restaurant workers, the fear is even more profound and personal. They live with the constant threat of deportation, which would mean separation from their families and communities, and the loss of their livelihoods. This fear permeates their daily lives, making it difficult to focus on work and plan for the future. This pervasive climate of fear and uncertainty has a chilling effect on the industry as a whole. It discourages aspiring entrepreneurs from entering the field and makes it challenging for existing businesses to attract and retain workers. The long-term consequences of this environment on the vitality and diversity of the American culinary landscape remain to be seen. Section 5. Echoes of Resistance. When restaurants became political battlegrounds. Trump's immigration policies and his broader political agenda have reignited a debate about the role of businesses, particularly restaurants, in the political sphere. During his first presidency, restaurants became unlikely battlegrounds for political protest, with several high-profile incidents highlighting the tensions between political ideologies and the right to refuse service. One of the most prominent examples was the incident involving Sarah Huckabee Sanders, then White House press secretary, being asked to leave the Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia, due to her role in the Trump administration. This incident sparked a nationwide conversation about the boundaries of civility, the rights of business owners, and the role of personal beliefs in the public sphere. Other incidents, such as protests disrupting then Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen's dinner, and the organized efforts of groups like Shutdown DC to track the whereabouts of public figures, further fueled the debate about the politicization of dining establishments. These incidents underscored the growing polarization in American society and the willingness of individuals to use their consumer choices as a form of political expression. The question of whether restaurants should be considered neutral ground or platforms for political activism remains a contentious one. While some argue that businesses have a right to refuse service based on their values, others maintain that everyone should be entitled to service regardless of their political beliefs. Section 6. A nation divided, a table left unset. Political tensions simmer in DC's dining scene. In the heart of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the political climate is particularly charged, and its impact on the restaurant scene is palpable. With a Republican sweep in the government, Trump officials are now a more visible presence in the city, a traditionally Democratic stronghold, leading to heightened tensions and potential for confrontations, even within the usually neutral ground of restaurants. Some restaurant workers in D.C. have expressed a willingness to refuse service to certain Trump administration officials based on moral grounds, despite D.C. law prohibiting discrimination based on political affiliation. This stance reflects the deep-seated opposition to Trump's policies among many in the city and their belief that personal convictions outweigh professional obligations. While outright refusal of service remains relatively rare, some restaurant workers have admitted to engaging in subtle forms of resistance, such as delaying service or seating certain patrons at less desirable tables. These acts, while seemingly insignificant, represent a quiet form of protest and a reflection of the simmering tensions beneath the surface of DC's dining scene. The consequences of such actions can be severe. Susanna Van Roy, a bartender at Boychurch Saloon, was fired for publicly stating she would refuse service to certain Trump administration officials. Her case highlights the difficult balance between freedom of speech, personal beliefs, and the potential repercussions for workers in a politically charged environment. Section 7. From Baltimore to Miami, a tale of two cities, united by a shared struggle. The impact of Trump's immigration policies on the restaurant industry is not confined to major metropolitan areas like Washington, D.C. It's felt acutely in cities and towns across the country, each with its unique challenges and stories. Baltimore, Maryland, and Miami, Florida offer two contrasting yet interconnected examples of how these policies are reshaping the culinary landscape. In Baltimore, where immigrant labor constitutes a significant portion of the restaurant workforce, particularly in ethnic restaurants, the labor shortage is particularly acute. Some restaurants estimate that immigrants, especially those from Latin America, make up as much as 90% of their kitchen staff. The fear of deportation has led to staffing shortages, forcing restaurants to reduce hours, limit menus, or even shut down entirely. Miami, a city with a large immigrant population and a thriving culinary scene heavily influenced by Latin American and Caribbean flavors, also grapples with the consequences of these policies. While early data on Florida's immigration law, which mirrors many of Trump's federal policies, doesn't yet show a significant drop in workers, the fear and uncertainty are palpable. Restaurant owners are apprehensive about the future, and workers are anxious about their livelihoods and families. These two cities, though geographically distant and culturally distinct, are united by a shared reliance on immigrant labor and a shared struggle in the face of policies that threaten to upend their restaurant industries. Their experiences underscore the widespread impact of these policies and the need for comprehensive immigration reform that addresses the needs of both businesses and workers. Section 8, The Long Shadow of Policy, a glimpse into the future of American dining. As Trump's immigration policies continue to reshape the landscape of the American restaurant industry, it's essential to consider their long-term consequences. While the immediate impact is evident in labor shortages, rising costs, and a climate of fear, the long-term effects could be even more profound, potentially altering the very fabric of American dining. One potential consequence is a decline in the quality and diversity of American cuisine. Immigrant chefs and restaurateurs have played a pivotal role in shaping American palates, introducing new flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques. The fear and uncertainty created by these policies could discourage aspiring immigrant entrepreneurs from opening restaurants, potentially leading to a homogenization of American dining and a loss of culinary innovation. Another concern is the potential for a decline in affordability and accessibility of dining out. As restaurants grapple with rising labor costs and a shrinking pool of workers, they may be forced to raise prices or cut back on service, making dining out a luxury reserved for the affluent. This could lead to a decline in the social aspect of dining, as it becomes less accessible to a wider segment of the population. Furthermore, the current climate of fear and uncertainty could have a chilling effect on innovation and risk-taking within the industry. Entrepreneurs, both immigrant and native-born, may be hesitant to invest in new restaurant ventures, fearing the instability and potential backlash associated with the current political climate. This could stifle creativity and limit the growth of the industry as a whole. Section 9. A Recipe for Disaster, the Unsavory Aftermath of Trump's Policies. The resurgence of Trump's immigration policies has cast a long shadow over the American restaurant industry, creating a recipe for disaster that threatens its very foundation. The immediate consequences are undeniable. Restaurants are struggling to find and retain workers, costs are rising, profits are shrinking, and a climate of fear and uncertainty pervades the industry. But the long-term implications are potentially even more dire. The very soul of American dining, its diversity, its innovation, its accessibility, is at stake. If these policies continue unchecked, we risk losing not just restaurants, but also the cultural tapestry they represent. The current situation calls for a more humane and pragmatic approach to immigration, one that recognizes the invaluable contributions of immigrant workers and entrepreneurs to the American culinary landscape. We need comprehensive immigration reform that provides a pathway to citizenship for undocumented workers, streamlines the process for legal immigration, and creates a more welcoming and inclusive environment for all. The future of American dining depends on it. We must not allow these policies to extinguish the flame of culinary creativity and cultural exchange that burns so brightly in kitchens and dining rooms across our nation.